Shrouded figures gather in a candlelit room, bound by ancient oaths. What secrets lie at the heart of Freemasonry's timeless rituals? For centuries, this brotherhood has stood as one of history's most famous and misunderstood secret societies, its enigmatic ceremonies fueling endless speculation and conspiracy. By the end of our journey, you will finally understand the profound truths hidden within their symbolic rites, truths that have nothing to do with world domination and everything to do with the human spirit. We will uncover why a master architect's murder is reenacted again and again, and what a builder's simple apron truly represents. What does it mean to build a temple not of stone but within yourself? But long before those candlelit chambers, Freemasonry was born in the dust and daylight of the construction yard. The story begins with the operative masons, the actual working stonemasons of the Middle Ages who built Europe's great cathedrals. These men were not philosophers in aprons, they were skilled artisans, and their lodges were simple site huts where they gathered to eat, plan the day's work, and protect the valuable trade secrets of their craft. Their rituals were practical, used to recognize a qualified brother mason from an impostor, ensuring that only those properly trained would work on a sacred and structurally perilous project. Can you hear the echo of their chisels, the rough hands that shaped stone? This was a world of tangible, physical creation. Then something profound shifted. As the great age of cathedral building waned, these operative lodges began accepting members who were not working stonemasons. They welcomed intellectuals, gentlemen, and thinkers, men fascinated not by the physical act of building, but by the symbolic potential of the mason's tools and traditions. These new members were speculative masons. They saw in the rough ashlar, the uncut stone, a metaphor for the unrefined human soul. They saw the process of smoothing and squaring that stone with the square and compass as a blueprint for building a moral and ethical life. The tools were no longer just for shaping rock. They became instruments for shaping character. This transition culminated in a pivotal event in London in 1717. 4 of these old lodges came together to form the First Grand Lodge, an event that formally marked the birth of modern, speculative Freemasonry. It was here that the transformation was codified. The common gavel, a stonecutter's hammer, was reinterpreted. It now represented the duty to knock off the corners of one's own vices and imperfections. The trowel, used by the operative mason to spread cement that binds stones together, became a symbol for spreading the cement of brotherly love and affection, that which unites a diverse group of men into a sacred society. The square, a simple tool for ensuring a perfect 90-degree angle, morphed into a reminder to act square and honest with all of humanity. And the compass, used to draw circles and measure distances, now taught a man to circumscribe his desires and keep his passions within due bounds. The entire focus shifted from constructing magnificent buildings out in the world to constructing a more virtuous self from within. The temple was no longer made of stone, but of the human spirit itself. So the speculative mason, armed with his symbolic tools, now approaches the very heart of the craft, a journey of transformation known as the 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge. Every single Freemason, regardless of his station in the outside world, must walk this same symbolic path. It begins with the degree of the entered apprentice. The candidate is symbolically unprepared in a state of darkness, and his first step is one of profound trust. He is often blindfolded, his left breast exposed, a cable tow around his neck, and 1 foot in a slipper. Each of these conditions is rich with meaning. The blindfold represents his initial ignorance and his reliance on the guidance of the brotherhood. The exposed heart signifies his candidacy and openness, while the cable tow is both a physical restraint and a symbolic tie to his former life. He is led into the lodge room, a place he cannot yet see, and after a series of challenges meant to test his resolve, the blindfold is removed. He is brought from symbolic darkness to light, his eyes beholding the three great lights of Masonry for the very first time. This is not merely a welcome into a club, it is a rebirth, an awakening to a lifelong pursuit of moral and intellectual light. The tools presented to him, the 24-inch gauge and the common gavel, become his first personal instructions. They teach him to divide his time wisely between service to God, service to his neighbors, and his own refreshment, and to actively work at removing his own moral imperfections. Having been introduced to the light, the Mason then progresses to the second degree, that of the fellowcraft. If the first degree was about moral awakening, this one is a call to intellectual and rational pursuit. The setting shifts allegorically to the middle chamber of King Solomon's temple, a place reached by ascending a winding staircase. This staircase is often described as having 3, 5, and 7 steps. These numbers correspond to the 3 principal offices of a lodge, the 5 orders of architecture, and the 7 liberal arts and sciences which were the foundation of classical education: grammar, rhetoric, logic, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. The journey upwards is a powerful metaphor for the Mason's duty to cultivate his mind, to seek knowledge as fervently as he seeks virtue. He is given new tools for this ascent, primarily the plumb, the level, and the square. The plumb reminds him to walk uprightly, the level to acknowledge equality among all people, and the square to square his actions by the square of virtue. This degree emphasizes that a well-built life requires both a good heart and a sound, educated mind. The culmination of this foundational journey is the profound and deeply moving third degree, that of the Master Mason. This is the most solemn and symbolic of all the craft degrees, centered on the allegorical story of the master architect Hiram Abiff. The narrative recounts his unwavering fidelity to his trust and the tragic consequences of his refusal to divulge the sacred secrets of a Master Mason. The candidate participates in a powerful reenactment of this story, a dramatic allegory of fidelity in the face of adversity, the inevitability of death, and the hope of immortality. This is not a celebration of death, but a profound meditation on the value of a principled life. It is designed to impress upon the Mason that his integrity is his most precious possession, something to be defended even at the ultimate cost. Having completed this degree, the Mason is told he has symbolically overcome death and is now a master of his own fate, tasked with building his spiritual temple with the same unwavering fidelity he has just witnessed. He has traveled from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge, and finally, through a contemplation of life's greatest mystery, to a deeper understanding of his own purpose and the timeless strength found in an unbreakable word. At the very core of the Master Mason degree lies a story so powerful, it is not merely told but fully reenacted. This is the Hiramic Legend, the tale of Hiram Abiff, the gifted master architect overseeing the construction of King Solomon's temple. He alone possessed the sacred master's word, the divine secret that animated the entire project. The drama unfolds as 3 unscrupulous fellow craftsmen, desperate to extract this word from him, ambush him at the 3 entrances to the temple. At each gate they demand the secret, and at each gate Hiram Abiff remains steadfast. His answer is always the same: he cannot and will not betray his oath. For his unwavering fidelity, he is struck down, his body buried in a shallow, unmarked grave. The legend recounts how King Solomon himself ordered a search party, leading to the discovery of his body and its eventual reburial with full honors within the temple's sacred precincts. So why is this story of murder and fidelity the centerpiece of the entire Masonic journey? It is because this is not a story about a physical death, but a spiritual one. The reenactment within the lodge is a profound allegory. The candidate himself participates in this ritual drama, experiencing the search for that which was lost. The 3 ruffians do not represent historical villains, but the universal forces of ignorance, tyranny, and fanaticism that every person must confront in their own life. Hiram Abiff's refusal to give up the master's word is the ultimate lesson in integrity. It teaches that there are principles so sacred, so core to one's being, that they are worth defending at any cost. His eventual raising from the grave is not a literal resurrection, but a powerful symbol of the triumph of truth and virtue over adversity and falsehood. It speaks to the immortality of a good name and the enduring power of a life lived with principle. When a Freemason takes part in this ceremony, he is not just watching a play. He is internalizing a timeless truth about his own mortality and the legacy he will leave behind. The legend answers a silent, haunting question. What is the point of building a virtuous life if death ultimately claims everything? The ritual whispers that the temple you build within yourself, stone by moral stone, is the one edifice that cannot be destroyed. Within the quiet confines of the lodge room, every single object is a teacher. This is not merely a meeting space, but a symbolic universe, a meticulously designed stage for the moral drama of self-improvement. The first lesson is under your feet. The floor is a vast checkerboard of alternating black and white tiles, a stark representation of life's dual nature. It speaks of the constant interplay between good and evil, light and darkness, joy and sorrow that defines the human journey. To walk across this floor is to be reminded that every step is a choice, a movement through a world of contrasting forces. Rising from this checkered plane are two massive pillars, one on each side of the entrance. These are Jachin and Boaz, names taken from the biblical description of Solomon's temple. Jachin meaning he shall establish, and Boaz meaning in it is strength, together symbolize the stability and fortitude required for any worthy undertaking. They are the gatekeepers of this symbolic world, reminding every brother that to enter a space of moral building, one must be grounded in strength and purpose. Your gaze is then drawn upward to the center of the ceiling where a five-pointed star shines brightly. This is the blazing star, and its light is not merely decorative. It represents divine providence, the guiding light of truth that illuminates the path for all seekers of wisdom. It is a constant, radiant presence in the lodge, a reminder that no matter how checkered the path below, there is a higher, constant source of illumination to follow. Finally, all attention in the room is oriented toward the east. There, seated in a raised chair, is the worshipful master, the lodge's presiding officer. His position is deeply symbolic. The east is the place of the rising sun, the source of material and intellectual light. Just as the sun rises in the east to dispel the darkness of night, the worshipful master occupies this station to dispel ignorance and guide the brethren toward enlightenment. The entire room is thus a map, a microcosm of both the wider universe and the inner landscape of the human soul. From the dualities of the floor to the guiding star above and the source of light in the east, every Mason is physically situated within a three-dimensional lesson on how to navigate life itself. But the symbolic journey does not end with the architecture of the room. It is worn on the body. Every Freemason is clothed in specific regalia, each piece a silent sermon on how to live. The most important of these is the lambskin apron. This is not a fancy accessory. It is the badge of a Mason, the first gift he receives upon his initiation, and it is the one item he is told he may someday be buried with. Why a simple apron made of lambskin? It is a direct link to the operative Masons, the actual builders who wore leather aprons to protect themselves from the rough edges of stone and the sharpness of their tools. For the speculative Mason, its meaning transforms entirely. The lambskin, a symbol of innocence and purity, now represents a life of moral cleanliness. It is a shield for the conscience, a reminder that a Mason's work is to build a life so virtuous that it requires no other covering. It signifies that his true labor is not with physical stone, but with his own character. Alongside the apron, the candidate is given a pair of white gloves. While the apron protects the individual, the gloves are about his interaction with the world. They symbolize pure actions, hands that are clean in their dealings with all of humanity. In many lodges, a man is given a second pair of gloves, intended for a woman he holds in high esteem. This beautiful tradition extends the symbolism outward, suggesting that the purity of one's conduct should influence and honor their closest relationships. Then there are the jewels and collars worn by the officers of the lodge. These are not awards for status, but emblems of duty. The worshipful master in the East might wear a square representing his duty to square the actions of the lodge. The senior warden in the West may wear a level, a reminder to keep the brethren on the same plane of equality. The junior warden in the South often wears a plum, symbolizing his duty to ensure everyone walks uprightly. Each jewel is a constant, visible prompt, a weighty reminder of the specific responsibility that officer has sworn to uphold. So when a Mason dresses for a lodge meeting, he is not putting on a costume. He is donning a set of moral instruments. The apron guards his heart, the gloves guide his hands, and the jewels he sees on his brothers remind him of the shared duties that bind them all together in their common pursuit of a life well lived. These silent symbols of the lodge are given voice through a secret language of recognition. Imagine a world without identification cards or digital passwords, where the only way to prove your affiliation was through a subtle gesture or a whispered word. This is the realm of grips, signs, and passwords, the living mechanics of Masonic ritual that have fueled public imagination for centuries. A grip is far more than a simple handshake. It is a specific, deliberate pressure and placement of the fingers that one Mason gives to another. Each of the 3 degrees has its own unique grip, a tactile secret that allows a brother to identify another in darkness or in a crowd. It is a physical proof of membership, a silent question and answer exchanged in the simple act of a hand clasp. Accompanying the grip are the signs. These are symbolic gestures, often made with the hands, that represent the lessons and trials of a particular degree. A sign might involve a specific motion across the body or a particular placement of the hands, each one a visual reminder of a moral tenet or a moment from the allegorical journey. These are not performed for outsiders, but are used within the lodge to demonstrate that a brother is in good standing and is qualified to participate in the work at hand. Finally, there are the passwords. These sacred words are closely guarded, whispered from ear to ensure they are never overheard. Like the grips and signs, there is one for each degree, and they are intrinsically linked to the symbolic stories taught within them. The word for the Master Mason degree, for instance, is intimately connected to the Hiramic Legend, representing that which was lost and is found. The purported purpose of this threefold system is profound in its simplicity. In an age of travel and uncertainty, it allowed a Mason from one country to prove his identity to brothers in another, securing aid and fellowship. More importantly, it preserves the integrity of the lodge itself. Before any meeting, the tiler, the guard outside the door, ensures that only those who can properly provide the grips, signs, and words for the degree being conferred are allowed to enter. This protects the sanctity of the rituals and the privacy of the brothers within. It is this very secrecy, however, that has been a magnet for conspiracy and wild speculation. For those on the outside, the inability to see or understand these rituals breeds suspicion. The simple, symbolic gestures are often misinterpreted as signals for world domination or occult pacts. The truth is far less dramatic, but in its own way far more powerful. This secret language is not about excluding the world, but about binding together a diverse group of men in a shared, transformative experience. It turns abstract lessons into physical memory, making the philosophy of the craft something you don't just know, but something you literally hold in your hands. This secret language of grips and signs finds its visual counterpart in one of Freemasonry's most beautiful teaching tools, the tracing board. Imagine a large, painted canvas unfurled on the lodge floor, a vibrant tapestry of symbols laid out for all to see. These boards are not decoration. They are visual allegories, the chalkboards of the Masonic soul, used by the lodge officers to illuminate the profound lessons of each degree. A typical tracing board for the first 3 degrees is a crowded yet orderly map of moral instruction. At its heart, you often find 2 contrasting stones. One is the rough ashlar, a jagged, uncut block straight from the quarry. The other is the perfect ashlar, a smooth, finished cube with square edges and a polished face. These stones tell the entire story of the Masonic journey in a single glance. The rough ashlar represents man in his natural state, unrefined and filled with imperfections. The perfect ashlar is the ideal, the man who has worked diligently to smooth away his vices through the moral discipline of the craft, becoming a perfect building block for a better society. Nearby, you might see a winding staircase, its steps curling upwards towards an unseen chamber. This is the staircase from the Fellowcraft degree, a direct visual prompt of the Mason's duty to ascend from ignorance to knowledge. Each step corresponds to a branch of learning, a constant reminder that self-improvement is an active climb. And then there is the central, commanding letter G. This single character is perhaps the most discussed symbol on the board. For some, it stands simply for geometry, the foundational science of the operative Mason, the art that allowed for the raising of cathedrals. For most, it holds a deeper meaning, representing the great architect of the universe, the divine creative force behind all existence. Its placement at the center of the symbolic board signifies that this spiritual principle is the core around which all other moral and intellectual lessons revolve. The tracing board is fundamentally a mnemonic device, a memory palace painted on cloth. In an era before printed manuals for every member, these visual aids ensured the complex symbolism of the rituals could be recalled, discussed, and internalized. The worshipful master would use a pointer to trace the symbols, connecting each image to a specific lesson, turning abstract philosophy into a concrete picture. The board transforms the lodge from a simple room into a landscape of the spirit, where every symbol is a landmark on the path to a better self. To sit before a tracing board is to take a journey without moving, to see the entire Masonic quest for virtue and light laid out in one powerful, silent sermon. Amidst this sea of symbols, one object rests at the very heart of the lodge room. Upon the central altar, always open, lies the volume of sacred law. For a lodge in the Western tradition, this is most often the Bible, but it could just as easily be the Quran, the Torah, or the Vedas, depending on the faith of its members. This book is far more than a static prop. It is one of the 3 great lights of Masonry, and it is considered the rule and guide for every Mason's faith and practice. Its presence is foundational, the spiritual cornerstone upon which the entire symbolic temple is built. When a candidate first enters the lodge, it is upon this sacred text that he places his hand to take his solemn obligation. The act is deeply meaningful. He is not simply swearing an oath to the men in the room. He is pledging his word before the divine as he understands it, invoking the moral authority of his own personal faith. This transforms a promise into a sacred vow, binding his conscience in the most profound way he knows. The society itself, however, makes no claim about which sacred text is correct. Freemasonry is not a religion, nor is it a substitute for one. It offers no path to salvation, no specific theology, and no prayers of its own. Its single, universal requirement is that a man believes in a supreme being, whom Masons poetically refer to as the great architect of the universe. This is a deliberately open-ended term. It does not define God. It simply acknowledges a divine creative principle, a first cause, allowing a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a Hindu, or a deist to stand together as equals on the level. The volume of sacred law on the altar is therefore a powerful symbol of this inclusive, non-dogmatic approach. It represents the divine law as revealed through whatever scripture a man holds dear. It is his personal spiritual square, the tool by which he measures and aligns his own beliefs and actions. This is why the book is always open. It signifies that a Mason's spiritual journey is never complete. He is constantly to be guided by its precepts to walk humbly, act justly, and love mercy according to the tenets of his faith. The lodge does not tell him what to believe, only that he must bring the full force of his belief to the work of building a better self. The volume of sacred law on the altar is a prelude to a promise. When a candidate places his hand upon its pages, he enters into one of the most solemn and misunderstood rites of Freemasonry, the taking of the Masonic obligation. This is not a casual vow, but a deeply personal and sacred promise, an oath that has fueled centuries of speculation and fear. The language of these obligations is archaic and powerful, binding a man to the duties of secrecy, charity, and fraternal support. Historically, the penalties described for violating this oath were severe and symbolic, referencing modes of death that were graphic to the medieval mind. A candidate might swear that rather than reveal the secrets, his throat would be cut from ear to ear and his tongue torn out by its root. These were not literal threats of violence, but profound metaphorical curses rooted in the era of their origin. In a time when a man's word was his most valuable bond, the most terrible penalty for breaking it was the utter destruction of his identity and his ability to communicate. To have one's tongue torn out was to be rendered incapable of speech or honor. To be buried in the rough sands of the sea was to be denied a proper, remembered burial erased from memory. These vivid symbols were designed to impress upon the candidate the supreme, almost sacred, importance of the trust being placed in him. The promise was not about hiding sinister plans, but about protecting the integrity of the rituals themselves. The signs, grips, and words were the group's private property, the keys to their shared experience. If they became public knowledge, the entire transformative power of the allegorical journey would be lost, reduced to a meaningless performance for outsiders. The oath ensured that every man entering the lodge would undergo the same profound, unspoiled experience of moral awakening. Beyond secrecy, the obligation binds a Mason to the active practice of brotherly love and relief. He promises to aid a worthy, distressed brother in need, provided it does not injure his own family. This is the foundation of Masonic charity, a network of mutual support that has built hospitals, funded education, and cared for widows and orphans for generations. It is a promise to see a brother not as a stranger but as family. When viewed in its full context, the Masonic oath emerges not as a pledge to a secret power, but as a commitment to one's own better nature, a vow taken before God and one's own conscience to live a life of integrity, charity, and silent, steadfast trust. That simple lambskin apron is not merely given, it is explained in a ceremony rich with meaning. The lecture that accompanies its presentation turns this humble garment into a comprehensive guide for living. It teaches that the apron is more than a badge of innocence, it is the emblem of a Mason's work. Just as the operative Mason wore his apron to protect himself while performing honest labor, the speculative Mason wears his as a shield for his conscience while performing the labor of self-improvement. This labor is framed as a joyous and noble task, the most important work a man can ever do. The lecture explains that the lambskin is white to remind the Mason of that purity of heart and correctness of conduct which should always distinguish a man who has been accepted into the fraternity. The material itself, the skin of a lamb, is a universal emblem of innocence, chosen to inspire the Mason to live a life that is blameless before both the world and his own concept of the divine. The size and shape of the apron are also deliberate. It is large enough to cover a man's vital parts, symbolizing that its protective moral influence should be extensive, guarding his most essential virtues from the corrupting influences he will inevitably encounter in life. The lecture then moves to the specific symbolism of its placement upon the body. When the apron is tied around the waist, it is said to remind the Mason that his affections should be bound in duty and gratitude. This is a profound lesson in emotional discipline. teaching that a man's deepest loves and loyalties should be channeled through a framework of responsibility and thankfulness, not left to wander without purpose. The position over the heart underscores that this work is not an intellectual exercise alone, but a matter of sincere feeling and genuine intention. Every time a Mason dons his apron, this entire philosophy is silently recalled. He is reminded that his purpose is to engage in meaningful work, to protect his inner virtue, to act with innocence, and to anchor his deepest affections in duty. A simple piece of clothing becomes a wearable sermon, a constant tactile reminder that the temple he is building is his own character. The journey to the middle chamber is one of the most beautiful allegories in all of Freemasonry, a symbolic pilgrimage for the mind. Having been brought from darkness to moral light as an entered apprentice, the fellow craft is now called to ascend from ignorance to knowledge. The setting shifts to the mythic interior of King Solomon's temple, where the goal is to reach the middle chamber to receive his wages. These wages, however, are not coins, but something far more valuable, the currency of enlightenment. The path to this inner sanctum is not a straight line, but a winding staircase, a powerful metaphor for the challenging, non-linear nature of intellectual and spiritual growth. The staircase itself is described with mathematical precision, its steps grouped in 3, 5, and 7. The first 3 steps represent the 3 principal officers of the lodge who govern its proceedings, but on a deeper level, they symbolize the 3 great stages of human life: youth, manhood, and old age. They remind the Mason that the pursuit of knowledge is a lifelong endeavor, one that should be nurtured from the beginning and carried through to the end. The next 5 steps are the 5 orders of architecture, the classical styles of building that every craftsman of the past was expected to know. For the speculative Mason, these become the 5 senses, the very gateways through which we experience and interpret the world. This teaches that a true education is not just abstract, but is grounded in our physical, sensory reality, using observation as the foundation for all understanding. Finally, the 7 steps ascend, representing the 7 liberal arts and sciences that formed the core of a classical education. These are grammar, the structure of language; rhetoric, the art of persuasive speech; logic, the science of sound reasoning; arithmetic, the science of numbers; geometry, the science of forms and space; music, the science of harmony; and astronomy, the science of the heavens. This is the heart of the journey. The fellow craft is taught that geometry, in particular, is the science upon which Freemasonry was founded, the very art that allowed the great cathedrals to rise. But the lesson is that all knowledge is interconnected, a unified whole that allows a person to understand their place in the universe. To climb these steps is to commit to a life of continuous learning, to sharpen the mind with the same dedication one would use to sharpen a tool. The entire lecture is a profound call to action, urging the Mason not to be content with a virtuous heart alone, but to build a sound and educated mind to guide it. The middle chamber is not a physical room, but a state of being, one reached only by those willing to make the arduous, winding climb toward true wisdom. This very system of secret recognition is put to the test in one of the most dramatic rituals of the lodge, the ceremony of the intruder. Picture the scene. The brethren are assembled, engaged in their solemn work, when suddenly there is a loud, impatient knocking at the outer door. The tiler, the guard stationed outside, challenges the stranger. The man claims a right to enter, but when asked for the requisite signs and passwords, he falters. He cannot provide them. He is an impostor, a cowan, as Masons would say, an eavesdropper trying to force his way into a place where he does not belong. The alarm is raised within the lodge. The officers react with grave concern, and the candidate for the degree is often placed directly into this unfolding drama. He witnesses the collective resolve of the brethren as they refuse entry to the unqualified man, protecting the sanctity of their work. This entire episode is a powerful, living lesson. It is not merely a play about an external threat. It is a test of the candidate's own integrity happening in real time. He sees the oaths of secrecy he has just taken being actively defended by every brother in the room. He understands that these are not empty promises, but living principles that demand vigilance. The intruder represents all the forces of hypocrisy and deceit that seek to corrupt a good man's character from the outside. The firm rejection of this intruder teaches the candidate that the mysteries of the craft are not hidden out of arrogance, but are protected to preserve their transformative power for those who are truly prepared to receive them. They are a sacred trust, and every Mason is a guardian of that trust. This ritual reinforces a profound truth that the strength of a man's word is the foundation upon which the entire fraternity is built. Without it, the temple of brotherhood would crumble into dust. Before a candidate ever sets foot in the main lodge room, he must first pass through a profound and solitary trial. He is escorted into a small, dimly vault known as the Chamber of Reflection, and the door is closed behind him, leaving him entirely alone. The air is still and heavy. This is not a punishment, but a necessary preparation, a symbolic descent into the self before any ascent into light can begin. The room is sparse, its walls often painted black or a deep, somber color, representing the primordial chaos from which all form must emerge. On a simple table before him rest a collection of strange and unsettling objects, each a key to unlocking a deeper understanding. A human skull sits as the most prominent reminder, its hollow gaze a silent teacher on the inevitability of death. It asks a question without words, urging the man to consider the finite nature of his own life and the legacy he hopes to build with the time he has. Nearby, he will find a piece of sulfur and a portion of salt. Sulfur, volatile and combustible, represents the active, fiery principle of the soul, the passions and desires that drive a man. Salt, stable and preservative, symbolizes the fixed, eternal essence of the spirit. Together, they illustrate the dual nature of humanity, the temporary and the eternal, the burning ambition and the enduring truth, which must be reconciled within himself. A simple crust of bread and a cup of water complete the tableau. These are the most basic sustenance, stripped of all luxury. They signify that for this inner work, for this confrontation with his own mortality and purpose, he needs nothing from the outside world. All the tools he requires for this journey are already within him. Here, surrounded by these stark symbols, he is instructed to write his philosophical testament, his personal reflections on life, death, and duty. This chamber is a crucible for the ego, a place to shed the titles, wealth, and status of the outside world and to stand for a few moments as merely a man. It is a powerful, lonely meditation on the raw material of his own being before he is invited to begin the work of building something better. From the solitary reflections of the chamber, a man emerges to find himself upheld by an unbreakable circle of support. The 5 points of fellowship are the living embodiment of this bond, a physical and symbolic ritual within the Master Mason degree that transforms abstract ideals into tangible action. This is not merely a lecture on brotherly love, it is a code of conduct enacted with the entire body, a solemn vow made through direct contact. The first point is foot to foot. As the brothers stand with their feet touching, the lesson is one of steadfast support. It signifies that when a brother is on a perilous journey, you will walk with him. If he is in danger, you will stand by his side. It is a promise to be a steady foundation for a brother who might otherwise stumble, ensuring he never walks a difficult path alone. The second point is knee to knee. This intimate contact represents the posture of prayer and shared humility. It teaches that a Mason's prayers for the well-being of his brothers should be fervent and sincere. When a brother is in distress, you will kneel alongside him, not in pity, but in shared supplication, acknowledging that all men are equal in their need for divine assistance and comfort. The third point is breast to breast. This signifies that the secrets of a brother, whispered to you in the confidence of friendship, should be as safely lodged in your own heart as they are in his. Your breast becomes a sacred vault for his reputation and his trust. It is the ultimate lesson in confidentiality, a physical reminder that a brother's private challenges and vulnerabilities are not for public consumption, but for your silent, loyal protection. The fourth point is hand to back. This is often demonstrated with a firm, supportive hand placed on a brother's back. It is the most direct symbol of active relief. It represents your duty to support a brother in his time of need, to help him bear his burdens, and most importantly, to stretch forth your hand to save him if he is falling into vice or error. It is the promise of a helping hand, not waiting to be asked, but offered freely and proactively. The final point completes the circle, hand to hand. This is the grip of a master mason, the ultimate token of recognition and fidelity. It signifies that you will never hesitate to extend a hand to a worthy brother in distress, and that you will do so in a way that does not injure yourself or your family. It is the culmination of all the points, a pledge of practical charity and unwavering fidelity, sealed with a touch. Together, these 5 points create a complete system of mutual obligation. They teach that brotherhood is not a passive feeling, but an active, physical, and moral commitment to uphold another human being through every trial of life, from the steps he takes to the secrets he keeps and the burdens he carries. Yet the Master Mason's journey does not truly end in that solemn grave. There is another step, a final ascent, often described as the completion and capstone of all the degrees that came before it. This is the Royal Arch, the brilliant keystone in the arch of Masonic wisdom. Where the 3rd degree concludes with a profound sense of loss, the Royal Arch begins with a search for that which was lost, culminating in a discovery that shines with the light of revelation. The central drama of this degree is the allegorical discovery of a hidden, subterranean vault beneath the ruins of King Solomon's temple. After the temple's destruction, a group of dedicated Masons returned to the sacred site, not to rebuild with stone, but to recover a priceless treasure of spiritual knowledge. They labor to clear away the rubble of ages, and in their diligent search, they uncover a secret chamber that had been sealed and forgotten. Within this vault, they do not find gold or jewels. Instead, they recover the greatest treasure imaginable, the long-lost word, the true name of the divine. This is not merely another password. It represents the ultimate, ineffable truth about the nature of God and man's relationship to the divine, the original light that had been obscured by the passage of time and the collapse of institutions. The discovery is electrifying. It symbolizes the moment when a seeker, after a lifetime of moral and intellectual labor, finally achieves a direct personal apprehension of the divine presence. The long, winding search from the darkness of the 1st degree through the contemplation of mortality in the 3rd now finds its ultimate purpose and reward. The lost word is recovered, and with it, a profound sense of spiritual completion. The Royal Arch teaches that while institutions may fall and outer forms may be destroyed, the essential, eternal truths remain, waiting to be rediscovered by those with the perseverance to clear away the rubble of dogma and superstition. It answers the haunting question left by the Master Mason degree, whispering that what was lost can indeed be found, and that the light which seemed extinguished was merely waiting in a hidden vault, ready to blaze forth once more. But the hidden vault beneath the temple ruins is not the final chamber. Another series of degrees awaits, known as the cryptic rites, which guide the Mason even deeper into the legend of Solomon's temple. This journey is focused on the Council of Royal and Select Masters, a body whose rituals center on themes of preservation and the fear of profound loss. Here, the narrative shifts from the discovery of a word to the protection of a sacred object. The central drama involves the fate of the Ark of the Covenant, that most holy relic of the ancient Israelites, said to contain the very tablets of the law given to Moses. The legend tells of a moment of impending crisis as foreign armies threaten to lay siege to Jerusalem. Faced with this catastrophe, a small, dedicated group of masters make a momentous decision. They cannot allow the Ark to be captured or desecrated. Their solution is one of brilliant foresight and solemn duty. They choose to conceal the Ark not in a fortified treasury, but within a secret, subterranean vault constructed deep beneath the temple itself. This is not a temporary hiding place. It is a tomb for a treasure, a deliberate act of preservation meant to outlast empires. The ritual reenacts the meticulous process of securing this vault, sealing it away from the world with the full intention that it would remain hidden until a future, more enlightened age could properly appreciate its significance. The emotional core of this degree is not triumph, but a somber and weighty responsibility. These masters are not celebrating a discovery, they are accepting a loss. They are voluntarily surrendering access to their most sacred object for the sake of its ultimate survival. The themes are powerful, touching on the nature of sacrifice, the fragility of knowledge, and the profound duty to safeguard truth for future generations, even if it means that your own generation must live in its absence. It is a lesson in stewardship that transcends time, asking what you would be willing to set aside, to hide away, to ensure that something precious endures the coming darkness. Beyond the vaults and arches lies a world of chivalry and crusader legend. We now step into the realm of the Masonic Knights Templar, an order that wraps the ancient ideals of knightly virtue in the symbolic language of the craft. This body stands apart within the Masonic family, as it is explicitly Christian, requiring its members to profess a belief in the Christian faith. Its rituals are among the most elaborate and dramatic in all of Freemasonry, drawing deeply from the rich and tragic history of the medieval Knights Templar. Candidates undergo solemn ceremonies of knighthood, taking vows of fidelity and courage, and are invested with the symbolic regalia of a crusading knight, the sword, the mantle, and the cross. The entire experience is designed to inspire a spirit of Christian charity and a defense of the faith, not with a physical sword but through moral strength and unwavering principle. This connection has, for centuries, fueled one of the most persistent myths surrounding Freemasonry, the theory of a direct, unbroken lineage from the original medieval order. The story goes that after the Grand Master Jacques de Molay was burned at the stake in the 14th century, surviving Templars fled to Scotland, where they secretly preserved their order by grafting it onto the emerging stonemason guilds. It is a compelling narrative, a secret history of survival that captures the imagination. Yet, historians find no credible evidence to support this direct lineage. The medieval Templars were a monastic military order, dissolved by the Pope under immense political pressure, their assets seized and their members dispersed. The Masonic Knights Templar emerged in the 18th century, a product of the same era of Romanticism and fraternalism that gave rise to speculative Freemasonry itself. So why does the link persist so powerfully? The answer lies not in historical fact, but in symbolic resonance. The original Templars were seen as martyrs for their faith, men of immense courage who were unjustly persecuted. For the speculative Masons of the 18th century, this story provided a perfect allegory for their own values, fidelity in the face of oppression, and a commitment to truth even at the cost of life itself. The Masonic Templar does not claim to be a literal descendant of a medieval knight, but rather a spiritual heir to his legendary virtues. The rituals are not a reenactment of history, but an invocation of an ideal, a powerful, emotional experience that challenges a man to live with the honor, courage, and piety of a knight of old, defending a different kind of holy land, the sacred temple of his own character and faith. Yet beyond the Crusader's cross lies a vast and intricate ladder of philosophical degrees. This is the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, a system that unfolds across 30 additional degrees from the 4th all the way to the 32nd, with a final honorary 33rd. It is crucial to understand that these are not promotions or higher ranks within the lodge. A man remains a master mason, and that is the foundation. Instead, think of the Scottish Rite as a sprawling university of the soul. Each degree is like a one-act philosophical play, a dramatic ritual that expands upon the symbols and lessons introduced in the first 3 degrees. Where the Blue Lodge provides the core moral framework, the Scottish Rite elaborates colors in the lines and explores profound themes in breathtaking detail. The journey through these degrees is not sequential in a literal sense. A Mason does not slowly climb them like corporate rungs. They are conferred in groups, and each one stands as its own unique allegorical lesson. The themes explored are vast and timeless. 1 degree might immerse you in the court of King Solomon, exploring the intricate balance of mercy and justice. Another could cast you as a knight-errant on a quest for divine truth, navigating trials of fidelity and faith. You might find yourself in the role of a medieval architect, learning the secrets of sacred geometry not as a building science, but as a map of the cosmos and the human mind. Another degree may take you to a philosophical council in ancient Athens, debating the very nature of wisdom and virtue. Each ritual uses powerful symbolism, dramatic dialogue, and rich imagery to impress a specific philosophical truth upon the candidate. It is a system designed to appeal to the intellect and the spirit, offering a deeper, more nuanced understanding of the human condition. The ultimate degree, the 33rd, is an honor conferred upon a select few for their exceptional service to humanity or the fraternity, representing a lifetime of dedication to the Rite's ideals. The Scottish Rite is not a secret government. It is a library of living philosophy, a collection of 30 profound stories that challenge a man to think more deeply about justice, wisdom, and his own path toward enlightenment. That capstone of the Scottish Rite, the 33rd degree, is perhaps the most mythologized of all. Whispers in popular culture paint it as a council of global overlords, a secret class of Masons who hold the ultimate keys to power. The truth is far more human and far more meaningful. The 33rd degree is not a rank one achieves through ritual progression, nor does it unlock a vault of deeper secrets withheld from other Master Masons. It is purely and simply an honor. It is a title conferred by the Supreme Council upon a very select few in recognition of a lifetime of exceptional service. This service is not measured in ritual proficiency, but in tangible, impactful work. A 33rd degree Mason is a man who has dedicated decades to the fraternity's charitable foundations, perhaps leading efforts that fund childhood language clinics or provide disaster relief. He might be recognized for his leadership in expanding the rites, or most importantly, for exemplifying the principles of the Scottish Rite in his daily life through his dedication to his community and to all of humanity. The ceremony of investiture itself reflects this shift in focus. It is less a drama of allegory and more a solemn charge. The recipient is not undergoing a transformation, but being acknowledged for the transformation he has already wrought in the world around him. The ritual emphasizes the immense responsibility that accompanies such an honor. It is a call to even greater leadership, a reminder that the highest accolade is not a terminal point but a commissioning. It asks the brother to rededicate himself to the core principles he has studied for so long, to become a living exemplar of the Rite's ideals of tolerance, charity, and truth. This degree does not grant superior knowledge, it recognizes superior character in action. It is the fraternity's way of saying that the most profound temple a man can build is not made of symbols and ritual, but of the good works he leaves behind in the world. Yet the world of these symbolic builders was not exclusively a brotherhood. While traditional Freemasonry remained a fraternity, parallel organizations soon emerged to welcome women into this universe of allegory and moral building. The most prominent of these is the Order of the Eastern Star, a body that stands as a beautiful and purposeful adjunct to the Masonic world. Its membership is uniquely composed of Master Masons and their female relatives, be they wives, mothers, daughters, or sisters. This creates a shared spiritual space where the families of Masons can participate in a similar, yet distinct journey of symbolic learning. The rituals of the Eastern Star are profoundly different in their focus. Instead of the architectural symbolism of the lodge, its teachings are built around the lives of 5 biblical heroines. Each woman represents a timeless virtue. There is Adar, who exemplifies the duty of fidelity and obedience to a sacred trust. Ruth represents the virtue of devotion and unwavering loyalty. Esther embodies the courage to stand for one's people in the face of great peril. Martha symbolizes the faith that endures even through the trials of death and loss. And finally, Electra represents the sacred and enduring power of charity and love. The Eastern Star chapter room itself is a pentagon with an altar at its center, and each point is dedicated to one of these heroines and her corresponding virtue. The order's primary purpose is one of fellowship and charity, providing a structured way for the families of Masons to engage in charitable works and moral reflection together, strengthening the bonds of the entire Masonic family. Alongside this adjunct system, another path developed, one that sought to erase the boundary entirely. This is co-Masonry, a movement that began in France in the late 19th century and established lodges that initiate both men and women on a basis of perfect equality. In a co-Masonic lodge, brothers and sisters stand together on the level, participating in the same rituals, taking the same obligations, and progressing through the same symbolic degrees. They use the same tools and allegories as traditional Freemasonry, from the rough and perfect ashlars to the legend of Hiram Abiff, believing that the universal lessons of building a moral life are not confined to one gender. While not recognized by mainstream, all-male Grand Lodges, co-Masonry represents a significant and growing interpretation of the craft, one that argues the temple of humanity cannot be fully built with only half the stones. But this world of symbolic light has always cast long shadows in the minds of those outside its doors. The very secrecy that binds the brotherhood together has, for centuries, made it a target for suspicion, fear, and outright persecution. This backlash, known as anti-Masonry, often fixates on the rituals themselves, interpreting the allegorical dramas as evidence of a sinister conspiracy. In the early 19th century, this suspicion exploded into a full-blown political movement in the United States. The trigger was the mysterious disappearance and alleged murder of a man named William Morgan in 1826. Morgan, a disaffected Freemason in New York State, had threatened to publish a book revealing the order's secret rituals. Before he could do so, he was abducted and never seen again. The public outrage was immediate and volcanic. The incident seemed to confirm everyone's deepest fears about the Brotherhood, that it was a secret society above the law, willing to kill to protect its mysteries. This fury crystallized into the Anti-Masonic Party, the first third party in American politics. Its platform was singular: to oppose Freemasonry and bar its members from public office. For a short but intense period, the movement held significant political power, demonstrating how quickly fear of the unknown could translate into real-world action. While the party eventually faded, absorbed into other political forces, the distrust it seeded ran deep, creating a template for suspicion that would be reused for generations. Alongside political fear, a more enduring form of opposition arose from certain religious quarters. Some conservative Christian groups, particularly those with a literalist interpretation of Scripture, began to level accusations of devil worship against the Masons. Their concern centered on the craft's inclusive approach to divinity. The term Great Architect of the Universe was seen not as a tolerant, universal concept, but as a vague and unbiblical substitute for the Christian God. The rituals performed in lodge, with their solemn oaths and symbolic gestures, were misinterpreted as a form of pagan worship or even satanic ritual. These groups pointed to the use of symbols like the pentagram on the Eastern Star emblem or the all-seeing eye, willfully ignoring their traditional meanings of virtue and divine providence and recasting them as proof of occult allegiance. This created a powerful and damaging narrative, one that persists in some circles today, that Freemasonry is a competing religion and a diabolical one at that. This potent mix of political suspicion and religious condemnation has had severe consequences across the globe. Throughout history, regimes of all stripes have viewed the Masons' private oaths of loyalty as a threat to state authority. The fraternity has been banned, its members persecuted, and its property seized in countries under fascist, communist, and theocratic rule. The Nazis vilified them as part of a Jewish conspiracy. The Soviet Union outlawed them as a bourgeois relic. In many nations today, membership can still carry a heavy social or even legal price. The great irony is that the rituals so often condemned were never designed to oppose any government or religion. They were created to turn ordinary men into better citizens and more faithful adherents of their own creeds. The persecution they inspired stands as a stark lesson in how easily symbolism can be misread, and how the fear of a secret can become more dangerous than the secret itself. The very tools used to preserve these rituals for centuries now present their greatest challenge. How does a centuries-old fraternity, built on oral tradition and solemn oaths, navigate an era of digital exposure and instant information? The answer lies in a quiet but profound adaptation, a balancing act between unwavering tradition and practical necessity. For generations, the heart of Masonic ritual was the perfectly memorized word. Lodge officers would spend months, even years, committing the lengthy, archaic scripts to memory, delivering them with solemn precision in the dim lodge light. This was more than a performance, it was a sacred trust, a living chain of oral history passed from one generation to the next. But in our modern world, finding individuals with the time and capacity for such feats of memory became increasingly difficult. The fraternity faced a dilemma: risk the degradation of their ceremonies or find a new way to protect them. The solution was the adoption of the cipher. These are small, bound books filled with seemingly nonsensical symbols, dots, and geometric shapes. To the uninitiated, they are utterly incomprehensible, a child's scribbles. But for a trained Mason, these ciphers are a clear and precise script. Each symbol corresponds to a word, a phrase, or a stage direction. The cipher allows an officer to accurately prepare and perform the ritual without having to memorize every single syllable, preserving the integrity and nuance of the ceremony while accommodating modern constraints. It is a brilliant compromise, a way to maintain the sacred text without letting it fade away from human fallibility. This shift, however, sparks an ongoing and deeply felt debate within the Brotherhood itself. Should the language of the rituals be updated? The prose is often centuries old, filled with these and thous and complex grammatical structures that can sound alien to a modern ear. Traditionalists argue that this archaic language is part of the ritual's power. It elevates the experience, separating it from the mundane chatter of everyday life and connecting the participant directly to the Masons of the past. To change the words, they fear, is to dilute the medicine, to lose the timeless resonance that has shaped character for generations. Progressives, meanwhile, gently suggest that the moral lessons are what matter most, and that these lessons could be delivered with equal power in more contemporary language, making them more immediately accessible to a new generation. This tension between preservation and relevance is a living conversation in lodges across the world, a testament to a fraternity that is neither frozen in amber nor willing to abandon its foundations. And then there is the ever-present threat of the digital age. Every ritual, every grip, every sign has been filmed and uploaded to the internet. The mystery, once guarded by oaths and Tyler's swords, is now just a click away. In the face of this, how can lodges possibly maintain their solemnity and secrecy? The Masonic response has been a subtle but profound reframing of what secrecy truly means. The brothers understand that the secrets are no longer physically hidden. The true secret, they assert, was never the words or the gestures themselves. The real secret is the transformative experience of undergoing the ritual. You can watch a video of a play, but that is not the same as being an actor on the stage. You can read the script, but you cannot feel the emotional weight of the dialogue delivered in a room of trusted brothers with your own hand upon the sacred text. The lodge now protects the sanctity of the experience, not the information. The oaths of secrecy are thus reinterpreted not as a vow to hide facts from the world, but as a promise to protect the profound, personal journey of every candidate who follows. By refusing to discuss the specifics of the rituals with outsiders, they preserve the power of the unknown for the next man who enters the lodge, ensuring his journey is just as potent and unspoiled as that of every Mason who came before him. The digital leak, in a strange way, has forced the fraternity to rediscover the deepest meaning of its own mysteries, proving that the most powerful secrets are not those that are hidden from the eye, but those that are felt only by the heart. So what is it all for? After the blindfold is removed and the signs are learned, after the legend of Hiram is internalized and the winding staircase is climbed, what remains is a single profound purpose. Every ritual, every symbol, from the common gavel to the checkered floor, is a single tool in a master builder's kit designed for one project alone, the construction of a temple not made with hands. This is the ultimate allegory, the inner spiritual temple that each Mason is tasked with building within himself. The rough ashlar is the raw material of his own unrefined character, and his lifelong work is to smooth and square it, stone by moral stone, using the square of virtue and the compass of self-discipline. This temple is his own soul, and its architecture is his legacy. The rituals are not an end in themselves, they are the blueprints and the training ground. The reenactment of fidelity in the face of death instills the strength to be honest when no one is watching. The ascent to the middle chamber cultivates a mind that seeks truth relentlessly. The 5 points of fellowship build the habit of seeing another's need as your own responsibility. Each ceremony is a rehearsal for a life lived with intention. The goal is not to create a secretive elite, but to forge better men, one symbolic lesson at a time. A man who has truly absorbed these teachings carries his temple with him. He is the one who acts with integrity in his business, who offers a steady hand to a friend in crisis, who meets ignorance with patience and fanaticism with reason. He understands that the level teaches equality, so he judges no one by their station in life. He remembers that the trowel spreads the cement of brotherly love, so he actively works to build bridges in his community. This inner work, this quiet, persistent construction, is the Mason's true labor, and when enough individuals undertake this work, the final, glorious result is a society composed of stronger, more ethical citizens. The temple within becomes the foundation for a better world without. The enigma of the Freemasons was never about global conspiracies. It was always about the most intimate and challenging conspiracy of all. A silent, personal rebellion against mediocrity, a vow to build a life of such moral solidity that it can withstand any storm. The rituals of the Freemasons were never a path to power, but a map for the soul. We have walked through their symbolic world, from the checkered floor representing life's dualities to the solemn reenactment of a master's fidelity. We have seen how the simple tools of a builder were transformed into instruments for building character. The common gavel knocks away our vices, the trowel spreads brotherly love, and the square ensures we act with integrity. These are not the blueprints for world domination, but for self-mastery. The entire journey, from the darkness of the initiation chamber to the recovered light of the royal arch, is one long, beautiful allegory for the human struggle toward virtue and enlightenment. The secret language of grips and signs was not designed to exclude, but to bind a diverse group of men in a shared, transformative experience, turning abstract philosophy into a physical memory held in the hand and guarded in the heart. The enduring allure of their mystery lies in this very paradox. In an age of relentless transparency, the power of a guarded ritual, of a story felt rather than just told, remains undiminished. It speaks to a universal longing for depth, for a personal journey that cannot be spoiled by a simple click or a leaked video. The true secret was always the transformation within the individual. So what do you think? Does the idea of a symbolic journey toward a better self resonate with you, or do other secret societies capture your imagination? Share your thoughts and questions in the comments below. The conversation about how we build our inner temples is one that belongs to us all.